This is Julie Pearson, Little Thunder. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2015, and I'm interviewing Karin Walkingstick for the Oklahoma Native Artist Project, sponsored by Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. We're at Karin's home in Claremore. Karin, you're Cherokee. You've only been showing 2 years, but your hand-built pots have won several awards at major shows. You use some traditional formats, but you also have been etching figurative designs into your pottery and painting them, and painting on pots in ways that are kind of new, so I look forward to hearing more about your work. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Claremore, Oklahoma, at the Claremore Indian Hospital. I grew up here, still live here.
What did your folks do for a living?
My dad was a machinist. He worked at, he retired from American Airlines in Tulsa.
Okay. How about your mom?
My mom is, she lives in Claremore. She's not working. She doesn't work.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I have one brother. He's 5 years younger than me. His name's Michael Walkingstick, and he lives in Kansas.
What was your relationship with your grandparents on either side?
My grandparents, I never had a grandpa. My grandpas were all gone before I was old enough to remember them. My dad, his mother, I got to know her. She was born in February of 1900, and that was Cora May Walkingstick, and I got to know her. We had a big family, and it was always hard getting time with Grandma, you know, but any time with Grandma was really special. And, I remember laying my head in her lap and her speaking Cherokee to me, and I really enjoyed the time with my Grandma.
Cool. Yes, I was going to ask if you were around the language very much growing up.
Just with my Grandma, you know, and she didn't speak with the family on and for just everyday things, so it was kind of, you know, neat when I had my head laid in her lap and then she would speak Cherokee to me. She didn't do it very often.
Did you have any extended family members who were artists?
You know, our families are so big. There could be. On my mom's side, she has several sisters that do draw and paint and are pretty talented that way. And on my dad's side, I have a distant relative, Kay Walkingstick, who we all know. She is a painter and doing very well, but I've never met her, and she is a distant relative, but I like to claim her.
Sure. And is the Cherokee on your dad's side and your mom's side?
No, just my dad.
What was your first experience with Native art?
2 years ago. It's been really new to me. I didn't grow up around Stillwell, my dad's from Stillwell, but most of these people live in and around Tahlequah, and you know, it's only an hour from here, so it's not hard to get to. But when I started doing this pottery, I had taken a class with Jane Osti, and a friend had suggested, you know, that might be kind of fun. So we went and took the class and had a ball and loved Jane. And I was, from the minute I had my hands in the clay, I was looking around trying to figure out, this is really fun, you know, how can I do more of this? And then I started trying to figure out how I could do more of it. I took some clay home, and I practiced a lot at home, and I would visit a lot with Jane and take another class, and Jane was very good at guiding me through this and getting me started. And
what was your first memory of actually doing art as a child?
I can't ever remember not doing it. I always had my big cheese tablet and my pencils and crayons were the best thing. Crayons and markers, because you could make whatever you want or draw whatever you want. And I was allowed to sit on the school bus in kindergarten with the big kids that sat in the back of the bus because I would draw them whatever they would want me to draw. So they kind of looked out after me. So I've always had older friends because of that. It started really young.
Already?
Yeah. Yeah. Kindergarten art contest. I won the kindergarten art contest, and it was just that way. I remember winning in first grade and second grade, and then through high school, they still had them. And
were you working at all in three-dimensional at that point?
I've done lots of arts and crafts. Yes, I've played with clay before, mostly the kind you cook in your oven. Just to do kids' crafts with nieces and nephews and things, and I'm always the one that they come to let's go play art at Aunt Karen's.
So even in high school, you were pretty serious about your art.
Well, we had art class, but I didn't do a lot outside of that from just at school. But I kind of laid it aside for a long time, living life. 20s, 30s. Making quilts, still staying busy, but always doing something creative somewhere. That's just an outlet that relaxes me. It makes me feel good, and until I started the pottery, and now I'm all the time doing the pottery.
Well, what did you do after you graduated from high school?
I worked like everyone else. I got married kind of young and had my son, and Cody, and he lives here in Claremore. He's 24 now and doing his own thing. So it's time for me to do my own thing. So
you sort of stayed at home with him for a couple of years. Okay.
Yeah, I worked when he was growing up, but we've lived here for 10 years, almost 11 years, and I've not worked while we've been here. Used to keep my house really clean, but now I have clay dust everywhere.
It's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
So you kind of explained that you saw this pottery class, you took one from Jane, then you went back and took a few more. What did you learn under her?
I can't even, I just learned so much from Jane. She's an inspiration. If you know her, you know what it is to love Jane Osti. She's just so sweet and so giving. She's not one to keep it to herself. That she's all about sharing the culture and what she knows, and she's proud of it, and she's willing to share it with you. And I got to go on a 2-week trip with Jane to Maryland. The summer before last, we went out and taught a class at McDaniel College for Common Ground on the Hill, and we stopped back through Cherokee, North Carolina, and went through their archives at their museum and got to see some of the old pottery. It was really neat. Tell them what you want to bring out, and they'll bring it, and you can see it up close and personal, and take pictures and see really how they made their pottery. And I don't do traditional pottery. I don't like going home the same way twice. I like to do different things, and so contemporary fits well with me. I like the idea that I can do anything I want. I don't have to stay in any certain vein. I'm Cherokee, and that makes it Cherokee pottery. Other than that, it's contemporary pottery. I use commercial clay, and I fire in a kiln, and so far that's been working for me. It allowed me to jump right in and not have to stop and process the clay. I know that's part of it, and I have processed the clay, and native clay, and have yet to do a pit fire, but that's on the list to do. I think you should know how. And but I don't know that I would really change from what I'm doing right now as far as how I make what I use and how but I do like to experiment with it.
Did it change anything for you, sort of that personal encounter with those older pots?
Yes. They were so bad you could snap your fingers and go back for even a day and just see how they lived and how they used these things. They were utilitarian. They weren't something you sit on the shelf and look at. They were useful items, and they were very central to getting through your day. You had your meal. There's, I would really, I know you can't do that, but how neat would that be?
Now, when you're working with Jane, was she firing pieces in a kiln for the class? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, we were using the Cherokee Art Center in
Okay.
Tahlequah, and they have 2 big kilns there, and it's for us to use. So we did. I started taking the classes, and then I started helping her with the classes a little bit. She let me kind of apprentice with her, and for a little while, and help go set up the classes, and just see what she does, and teach them each class and how she handles it, and what she says to them, and the different designs that she would have us do, and explaining the paddle stamping from how they used to do it, or some still do, and just I would like to learn more about the history behind some of the pots that we have. So we'll ask each other, the artists will get together and say, is this a water or is this wind? Or we're still kind of undecided on some of the designs, but somebody's got to know somewhere, right? We'll find out. It just takes time.
So it was a good way to learn, basically, by apprenticing and helping with the class.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When did you enter your first art competition, and what was your piece?
First art competition was the Trail of Tears show, not this past year, but the year before, and I was lucky enough to walk away with a ribbon for Pottery. I believe it was 3rd place, and the People's Choice Award, I won that, and the Emerging Artist of the Year. So it was a big first show for me.
That's great. Now, were you set up to do did you have your own kiln at that point? How did you
No, I
get
didn't.
set up?
I was buying my clay through the art center in Tahlequah and using their kilns. I live an hour away, so it was 4 hours on the road every time I wanted to fire something. So that was my first goal, was I would go to the shows and I would sell what I could sell, and people were buying this, and I opened my own account, and I saved my money, and the first summer in July, it was Christmas in July, I got my own kiln, paid for my pottery, paid for my kiln, and it's been paying for itself. It's been doing its own, it's been a good trip.
How did you know how to price your work at first?
Pricing is kind of difficult. We kind of you look at pottery around you and what pottery there is out there. I look at Jane's pottery, and Jane's quite a bit higher than mine. She's been around for a long time. She knows what she's doing. She's well established, and that's what you get when you get Jane's work, and so rightfully it should be, but mine's going to be lower than that. And pricing's kind of difficult. But it's your time. It's how much you've put into the design. The easier pots are not as much. I've had pieces from $100 to $3,500, and I've done well all in between that. So far it's really good. I think I'm sitting pretty close to where I should be right now.
What's your husband's role in the business?
Oh, I couldn't do this without him. I just couldn't. He is such a big support, and he likes to laugh about it and say that he carries everything. Well, he does, but he also helps me with my website and the business side of things, the expenses and logging everything and making sure you've got your, I's dotted and your T's crossed, and tries to stay on me about making my deadlines because I'm not real good at that. Not really organized. He tries to keep me organized, I guess.
What are some of your pottery influences?
Pottery influences?
In the sense of, since it's contemporary and you're not necessarily, Southeastern is one, but are there other influences on your pottery?
The people that I meet, who I learn from, I think we're all a little piece of who we learn from. And not only did I spend time with Jane, I got to spend some time with Richard Zane Smith.
Let's hear about that.
Wonderful guy. I love him, and his wife are just great. I got to spend a week with him last year, just me and him in his studio, building across from each other, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. He's a big experimenter, and he's kind of got me. When I first started this, I thought I would stay in the Cherokee vein and make traditional pottery. Why wouldn't you? But then you make a few pieces, and for me, I don't want to go home the same way. I don't want to make the same pot over and over again. Richard is a big experimenter, and I like that. I like that there's so much to learn. Every piece is a learning experience. So he's taught me how to make a corrugated coil pot, and I don't have any to show you because I can't seem to keep them, but it's just a different way of making things, a different way of learning things when you learn from different people, and I appreciate what Richard's had to teach me about painting the pottery. Now I paint pottery. Cherokees didn't paint their pottery, but now I do.
Can you talk a little bit about your figurative work on pots like birds on a wire and birds of a feather?
Birds on a wire is pretty easy. It's the biggest pot I've ever made, and I wrestled with it for a while. And of course it took more time than any of the other pots, and by the time I was finished with it, I just wanted to have some fun with it. And my husband and his mother, their family are birders, and so it just seemed appropriate. I was talking to her, and I told her I wanted to put birds on the pot, and I said, what are some small birds, so she's telling me about the small birds that would fit on the pot, and so I kind of looked those up, see what the shapes were, and
Are they blackbirds?
They are not all blackbirds. They are in color, they're black, but it's supposed to be just a shadow of them, just their profiles. I did carve a little bit into them so you can kind of see a little bit. There's a titmouse and there's a red bird or a cardinal. There's some of the other birds are on the edge, but they're all just goofing and having a good time. There's one bird hanging upside down, and some days that's us.
Yeah, you can really see your sort of background as a, painting and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of paint did you use for the birds?
It's a slip.
It's a slip.
It's a slip with a mason stain for the color, mixed with slip and then painted on.
Right. Do you always title your pots?
I do for my competition pieces. I don't always title a pot. Naming them is a whole job in itself. It's easy for some people, I guess, but birds on a wire is all I could think of when the birds sitting on a wire. It's not very creative. There's another gentleman I know that does such a wonderful job at naming pots. He popped off with the party line. I wished I'd thought of it myself.
How about birds of a feather? That's really actually just painted, and there doesn't seem to be much etching, I don't think.
That one is all incised. There's no paint on that one, but
Okay.
there are different birds all around the pot. It's Oklahoma birds on a pond scene, and they go all around the pot. There are great blue herons, 2 of those, a ruddy duck, a wood duck, just common ducks. Not sure if they have a name. Just different birds. There's a frog in there and rocks
now
and
I remember
trees.
because it had cattails and there's kind of a landscape
Uh-huh.
in there. How about the one, it looked like it was just painted on your website? I don't know if it had butterflies.
I've done a butterfly one. It was called Monarchs and the Milkweeds, and that was to draw attention to the milkweed plant that the monarchs depend so much on. And people, you hear about people planting milkweed now to try to get the monarchs here and get them some food.
Mm-hmm. And that was painted with slips as well?
It was. That one was in the Sherwin Miller Jewish Museum in Tulsa. It's the first place it came out at, and I get a lot of comments on it, and I didn't have it for very long, and I came back and made a hummingbird pot along the same lines.
What's the biggest challenge you've encountered in your work so far?
The histories. Probably that. Nobody likes to sound silly, when they ask you about something you don't quite know the answer to. It makes you think maybe you shouldn't be making it yet, and I've had a little bit of that. There's a pot that we've made that it was from an old creek site, and it was a creek pot, and I didn't realize at first that it was a creek pot, so now I know. And same thing, I'd made a cattle pot. It's the same thing. I like the shape. It was all in innocence. It wasn't stealing anything, or it was all in building the shapes and learning the different shapes, and I like the shape of those pots, so I made them. But now I know there's a line, respect. You don't, try not to cross that line. But I think just about anything else is it's mine. I'm not copying off of anything. I'm not looking at anything. I'm making it up as I go. These pots sometimes tell me how they want to be rather than me telling them what they're going to be. I've had them change shape. One pot changed shape 4 different times, and it comes out to be what it wants to be. It doesn't always go the way I want it to, but I'm always happy with it in the end. I've thought about that before. How do you know? Someone had asked me, how do you know when you're finished? And that's a hard question to answer. I don't know if you're tired of working on it or if you're just satisfied. If it's to the point I think you're just satisfied with it. It feels good, and you can let it go in the world and be happy about it.
What's the best piece of business advice you've gotten?
Always smile and always be nice to everyone, I think. I've sold pots that way. Just visiting with people, not expecting a sale, just visiting with someone and just having a good conversation. And I can think of a time in Lawrence, Kansas, where I was talking to this lady for a long time, and it was kind of slow at the show. We just had the best conversation, and she said it was time to go, and she left. She came back 2 hours later and bought the pot she was standing rubbing on when it was highly incised, and so it felt good to rub it. And so the whole time we were talking, I think we were both rubbing that pot. It just felt good to touch it. And she came back and said that she missed touching that pot, and she had to come take it home with her. So that turned into something. We were just visiting, I wasn't trying to make a sale. If someone doesn't want it, they don't want it. I just stop by, say hi, just enjoy your day. If it makes you happy, it does. If it doesn't, maybe the next one will,
Thanks for sharing that. What's an award that you've gotten so far that you're particularly proud of?
Santa Fe.
Want to tell us about that?
Santa Fe Indian Art Market. It was my first year out there this year, and it was last month, and I got an honorable mention my first time out, and shocked, couldn't believe it, excited.
In the contemporary pottery category. Now, was it at IFAM or was it at the market itself?
It was at the big market.
Okay.
The smaller one doesn't have the awards.
It doesn't have a competition.
No, not yet. But the big show, that's a special one. It looks white, but it feels blue. It was a big award for me. Also, Red Earth. Red Earth was a big one. The Kathleen Everett Upshaw Award. That was a big one for me.
You want to explain what that award is for?
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can without getting it wrong. I don't want to misspeak, but it was a member of her family that set it up, and she was big into the art, and it was just a foundation made for her. I'm not sure how to explain that one. I don't want to mess that one up. Also, the first show I was ever in, that was her first. That was the first, and I got 3 there. So.
That's really cool.
I appreciate it every time. I never expect it, so it's always a shock when they call your name. It's not my favorite thing to do is go to the front of the class when they call your name, but
And what was it like being at Market for the first time?
That was exciting to be out setting up your booth at 4:30 in the morning. In the dark, and finding your way to your booth in the first place. Like I said, I'd never been there. But setting up at 4:30 in the morning and getting ready and thinking that people are going to show up. Boy, do they. It was very busy the whole weekend, and I just had so many great conversations and met so many neat people and great contacts and friends, I think, that I'll have for a long time. I really enjoyed that show.
It's kind of amazing how many Cherokee potters have sort of started their careers sort of midlife or later. Because, I think Anna Mitchell and her daughter, Victoria Vasquez, Jane, Crystal Hannah. I mean, there's just lots of examples. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think it's pretty neat. I didn't know about Crystal Hannah. I didn't know what age she was when she started, but I knew that Annabelle was 40-something, and Jane also, and me too. So it lets me know that it's not too late. They had done very well, had long careers, and still going. So I don't see an end to it. I don't think Jane sees an end to it. She's happy doing what she's doing, and it's a good example to have in front of you.
You live out in the country. Is that an inspiration for your work?
Oh, nature, always, yes. Yes. As far as what goes on my pots, it's all nature. I've done deer and birds and bears and, I don't have bears in my backyard, but it's all nature. And I use things too. I use natural things as tools, like walnuts and peach pits and corn. I use all of those in
for patterning or
texture.
Do you make any functional pots?
I don't. They're all decorative. You have to seal the pot, and I don't use glazes. I think a glaze would. I haven't got into glazes, but I think a glaze would seal it. But I don't use them. So they're all just decorative.
Have you done any out-of-state shows? You mentioned the
Out of
workshop.
Oh yeah, we went to. I just came back from Haskell in Kansas, Lawrence,
Right.
Kansas, and that was a good show for me. It was a good show for me last year too. Santa Fe, New Mexico. And the rest I think are mostly around here. Southern Oklahoma, Tahlequah, Cherokee Art Market here, about 20 minutes away from me. So, not a lot out of state yet. Oh, I did Idle-Jorg in Indiana.
Okay, how long have you done that one?
It was just this year.
This year. How did that go?
It was a good show. It was different in the aspect that it drew a different crowd. The crowd, northern crowd. It was a different crowd, but it was a good show.
Did you get to look around Indiana at all, or?
No, we usually go up there for the show and spend the whole time doing things associated with the show and then home.
Right.
No place like home.
So you're getting ready to do Cherokee Art Market,
Mm-hmm.
And you have your competition piece finished.
I do. I
wanna
usually
tell us
can't
about
say
it?
that. This is a rare occasion.
This won't come out for 6 months.
It's a rare occasion that I have one finished this soon before the show, but it happened. I'm glad it happened. I have it. I'm ready. I can relax. I wish it happened that way every time, but.
And you have enough inventory, you think?
I do. I like to go with a lot. I think more than most. I like to go with a variety, because if there's something you don't see over here, maybe you'll see it on the other table. I try to keep a big variety, whether they're painted or corrugated or look more Cherokee or, just a little bit of something for everybody. I'm happy when I have a variety. So I try to take a variety. My inventory's down a little bit right now, but I'm working hard to build it back up, keep it up.
What's your favorite thing to make? And I know you don't like to repeat necessarily, but what's your favorite pot to make right now? Oh,
I do like to make the turtles, because you can make them so different. Yeah,
style.
The effigy pots. My turtles are different from anybody else's turtles, and I wish I had a picture to show you. I don't have any turtles right now.
I saw one in 2 different slips, I think. 2 different.
There was a black one that was done with a kind of a sgraffito finish, and I sold that this last show. I hated to see him go, but it's surprising you get attached to them like they're almost like they're animals or something. I get attached to the turtles. I don't know why. But the turtles are fun to make because you can make them so many different ways and finish them off. One finish I like to do is a pine needle fire, a flash fire. And you take your pottery out and make a little nest of pine needles, put your pottery in it, cover it up with pine needles and light it on fire. And you never know what you're going to get. It's like Christmas morning. Sometimes the result is really, really good. And it's really thrilling when that happens. On a slightly breezy day, you can get some really good flame licks on your pottery, and I like to finish the turtles that way sometimes.
But only turtles. You haven't done your pots.
I do a lot of pots that way.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do most of my pots that way, and it has them ask questions when they walk up. They want to know, is it wood? And then now I'm getting a lot is it leather? And I can see where they would say that, but
because there's some nice brown tones.
Yeah, there's really some nice different brown tones
in your work. So you do both the kiln and the wood firing, or the pine needle firing at least.
Mm-hmm. For the finish at the end, the clay that I use, it is a commercial clay, and it's very orangey. Some of them I'll leave that way if I've painted them. But if I don't have any painting on it, they usually go on the pine needle fire, pine and cedar, but a combination, yeah.
So I don't think you were working when the drought was so bad, but have there been days when you couldn't do that?
Lots of days. Lots of days of the drought situation, and also we get a lot of wind. And I do have a wind barrier set up for where I do mine, but still on some days it's a little breezy to be out messing around with it. I'm not a firebug. I don't like the fire to get out of control. I don't want that to happen, but if it's pretty breezy, I won't go out and try it. But a slightly breezy day will get you some good color.
Do you have any projects coming up that you're particularly excited about?
I do. I am with the Return from Exile exhibit that's going around the country. It opened in Athens, Georgia, and it'll be making its way around for the next 2 years. I have a piece in that, And you know, I'm doing the Cherokee Art Market, and I'm going to have a little gallery show with Tim and Tahlequah out by the river in Tulsa. So I've got that to look forward to. And my next show, CSAM, Southeastern Art Show and Market with the Chickasaw Nation in Tishomingo, is up next.
And you're continuing to sell from the Spider Gallery, I guess.
Yeah, the Spider Gallery. For Spider Gallery. They don't have anything right now because I robbed it all for Santa Fe, but I need to replenish them. But yeah, I enjoy the Spider Gallery. There are some other gallery opportunities that I think are coming up as soon as I can build my inventory up a little bit. I've got not mentioned yet, but yeah, there's some galleries shows coming up that I don't think I should mention them yet.
Well, that could work out really nicely.
I hope so. I hope so.
Do you get a lot of commissions?
I do. Commissions, I think everybody, from what I hear, they all feel the same way about the commissions. They're nice to have. They're, you know, steady income, but the thing about commissions is you're making something that somebody else wants. You're not making something that comes strictly from you, just that's what you feel like making. You're making something for someone else. I've done good with them so far, the commissions. I've been happy with what's come out of it, but it's never the favorite.
Let's talk a little bit more about your techniques. You're building. Are you using the coil method on your pots or?
Mm-hmm. I've never used a wheel. So far I've done coils, corrugated coils, the bigger Cherokee coil, you know, the way we do it, Cherokee. Like I said, I've never used the wheel, and I get that a lot. People ask, well, how do you get it so round if it's not on a wheel? I don't know, I've never used a wheel, but you know, we have a turntable that we use to get the, you know, to turn your work, to turn it around where you can work on it. It's all hand turned, but that helps to get it nice and round, to be able to turn it around. But it is a little bit of a struggle. I've got some little tips and tricks I like to try to keep myself in the round.
And a lot of times, and you seem to like the pinch pot top sometimes.
Yeah, the notched tops.
Yeah, the notched tops.
Yeah, I think it adds a nice little extra on the top. But they're not all like that. I like to do that though.
What about burnishing?
I burnish with a stone. They're all stone burnished. That'll put a, you know, and in the end, the more time you spend polishing them, the better off it is in the end. You know, when you get that flame lick on there from the pine fire, it can make a really nice. The smoother it is, the better it looks on the outside with the finish.
Do you ever feel frustrated that you can't burnish as long as you want to, or?
I work pretty hard on them. I usually can get them done before it's past time. Yeah, I usually start on it a little early, actually. Yeah.
What kinds of research do you do for your pots besides what you've learned from other artists, or maybe?
You know, as far as, because they're contemporary, there's not a lot of research to it. You make what you feel, and if it feels good, go with it. I come up with some strange things sometimes just because I wonder if that would work, and then I'll try it. I made an acorn last year for the CSAM show coming up, and I just wanted to see if I could make it. I had a fat little acorn that I wanted had it as an example. I just wanted to see if I could make it. I did, and it won first place at the CSAM show, and people were commenting. Of course, I'm new. I don't know where all these where people are coming from with what they like. I just make what I like, and kind of push myself to see if I can get that cap on there, you know, and make that curve, and it's just pushing myself, really. Not a lot of research.
And it was
to
a bigger
it.
piece,
It's just,
I imagine. Yeah.
I really like the way it turned out, and what I did before I started making that is I looked online to see acorn pottery made in the shape of an acorn, and I didn't see a lot, and the ones I did see were upside down. I thought, well, why can't you make it standing up? So I didn't see any, so I just tried it. It's a lot of experimenting, like I said. It's just making
And
what
then
you
the
want.
balancing of it, I guess, the shape, that would have been.
Yeah, it seemed like it'd be really top heavy, but it came out nice. A friend of mine has it in his study.
Great, sounded good home. How do you sign your work?
Okay, 13-letter last name. It's kind of long, so you want to make sure the bottom is big enough where you can write your whole name out. I do write Karin Walkingstick, and I sign it with the year, and I write that it is a Cherokee pot. I write Cherokee on it in Cherokee. On the smaller things, I have a mark that I use for the smaller pieces that I can't quite get it on there.
There's a lot of relief work that you do as well, besides etching. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so there's only 2 years in, I'm doing these little phases. So now I'm doing this sort of a relief work. I did some dogwoods and made the pot really thick because I knew I really wanted to dig in deep on it and really make it stand out. And it turned out fine. It turned out really nice. I was happy with it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that one pretty quickly here. What's one of the most fruitful sort of either experiments or mistakes that turned into something constructive?
Oh, let's see. Specifically, I can't really think of anything on the spot. Generally, I can tell you that it happens a lot where I'll make something I don't really like it. And I won't like it for days. And then all of a sudden, I'll do one little thing to it. And it just makes the biggest difference in the whole thing. It just makes you love the pot after that. So I've gotten into these little things where it's just that one little thing. All it needed was that one little thing and made all the difference in the world. And that's happened to me over and over, where I've not really liked it and then it's turned out really well.
So you haven't kiln-fired it yet. It's still the clay, and you'll end up changing
Sometimes it's
something.
before, sometimes it's after. You never can tell. It's usually at the end. It really is. The piece that I'm going to show you is one of them. I wasn't really sure about it, and I did that one little thing, and I go, okay, now I like it.
What's your creative process, starting with how you get your ideas?
Honestly, I'm usually laying in bed when I'm thinking about it. I'm usually trying to go to sleep at night, and I'm thinking about it. What am I going to make next? You know, what can I get into next? You know, I have ideas in my head that I can't get out fast enough. I can't make them fast enough. I almost just don't want to share them until I get them out, but it's like that. It's like when I wake up in the morning, sometimes that's the first thing I think about. And I guess that's how you know it makes you happy, when it's the last thing you think about first thing in the morning. I spend all day with it, and you know, sometimes if I don't like the way something's going, it'll end up in the bucket. But most often not. I can do something with it.
Do you ever write things down?
I do. I do, just to remember. There's a buffalo nickel I really want to do. And I have the idea in my head. I want to do the front and the back. I don't know how I want it to work together, the front and the back. I want 2 pieces. I don't know how I'm going to get them together. But I know how I want to finish it. I know how I want to do it. I just haven't got to it yet. I just really want to do it before someone else pops up and does it. I don't write things down, you know, I don't draw out designs. I just go, like I said, they don't always end up as the design in the first place, so it's really a waste, but most of the time they don't end up as the design, so I don't write them down, I don't draw them out. They just come as we go.
What's your creative routine? Like, do you work during the day more than at night? Or
I'm a night owl. I do this a lot at night. Most days I won't get started on pottery. I'll have had my day and done my regular chores throughout the day, and then about 4 or 5 o'clock I'm ready to start on the pottery. And some days that'll go all night. Some days it'll, you know, 2 in the morning is usually a good cutoff time for me, but it's not unusual to find my light on at 4. I work better in the evening. I've always kind of been that way. My whole family's kind of that way. My dad always worked night shift, my brother and my son. So I guess it's all of us.
More quiet?
Oh, it is quiet. You don't have to worry about the phone ringing. Nobody's calling to tell you anything or ask anything of you. No interruptions at 4 in the morning.
How do you pace yourself to sort of supply these shows? Because you have a pretty good show schedule going, it sounds like, now.
I do, and this is probably the hardest time to get things ready is right around the Santa Fe Indian Market, because that, if you're lucky, your inventory will take a big hit. And then to replenish that for the coming up of the Cherokee Art Market is a big thing, and you have a couple weeks in between, and you do have to pace yourself, get as much built before the Indian Market, and then you have a few weeks in between other markets where you can get something done. I will a lot of times have something started and then leave to go to a show, and then when I come back I'll pick up where I left off and finish it. The good thing is you can walk off from some of these things. As long as you wrap them up really tight and keep them moist, you should be able to come back to it and pick up where you left off. But yeah, that happens a lot, is trying to catch up in the weeks in between the shows.
Is there another potter you'd like to work with or apprentice with?
Yes. Lots of Southwestern potters. I'd love to just, I mean, even if I don't work with them, I just like to talk to them, or there's I didn't do this for a long time, and then I picked it up and I got really excited about it, and there's nothing that make you happier than just being able to talk about what you're doing, because it's such a lone thing. You're not in a group making pottery, you're by yourself making pottery, and to be able to get out with other people and talk about the pottery, just to talk about it, is helpful. It makes you feel good, it makes you energized, and just to if you need a little recharge, just go find another potter, and Jane, Victoria, Victoria McKinney, just other potters, just go hang out with them, and you'd be surprised at the end of your day how much you really want to come. Oh, I can't wait to get home and get started. I've got another idea. I want to try this. You just get rejuvenated, just recharged, and it's a good feeling just to be able to talk about it.
I guess you didn't get to visit at Santa Fe Indian Market probably with any Southwestern potters this time.
I didn't. You know, everybody was really busy, and I stopped by a couple booths and tried to catch a few people before the show really got started, and it's just hit and miss because everybody is so busy trying to get going. But after the market, there are so many more that I want to talk to that I've met, and it's nice. It's a nice little community of people. I've had a really good time, and I've met some great people, in the past 2 years. Everybody I know in the Native American art community, I've basically met in the last 2 years. It's a lot of people to remember. But they're so good. They're so good in what they do. It's not hard to remember, what they do. Maybe the name sometimes, but you can remember a face and what they do, and it's really nice to get to know these people. I met some really good people.
We didn't really get to talk about the Sherwin Miller show very much, but can you just explain what the theme of it was?
It was a show to showcase. I hate to say showcase the trials we've had in both of our pasts, the assimilation and removal, and then their concentration camps. I had the butterfly pot, the monarch pot, and we related some of our stories to their stories, and just the strangest things would make the connection. The butterflies, the children in the concentration camps drew butterflies on the walls as a symbol of rebirth and renewal, and they put that there as knowing that what their situation was and what their future might be or might not be. It was a little chilling to I don't like to look back like that. I know we've had some rough times like that, but I don't. You move past those. You don't forget it, but you try to see the good in it. But I know it sounds funny that there'd be good in it, but
And then the Southeastern focus show, which was Return from Exile.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk just a little bit more about that one too? It's multimedia, I guess.
Yes, some big names in that one. Troy Jackson, Tony Tiger, Bobby Martin, Roy Boney, just a whole slew of them. Shan Gosshorn.
Did you get to go to the opening?
I didn't. It was in Athens, Georgia, at the, can't even think of the name of the Linden House. It opened there, and they took everything back to where it all started. And a few of them went out for the opening, and we got to watch them, the distance. But I love to see the pictures they had from their opening night. Yeah. But I remember really proud to be a part of that. Just the names that are in that, they've proven to be great friends already, and I appreciate those people so much, as including me on their show. I can't wait till it comes here.
Yes. Do you know where it's going here?
It's leaving Athens and going to Naples, Florida, and then it'll be in Little Rock, Arkansas. I think it's been about a month in each place, and I'm not sure when it will be here. I believe it'll be next year at the
Or
I think at a museum in Tulsa.
somewhere downtown,
I can't
maybe.
remember. At this moment, I'm drawing a blank on that. It's going to be in Santa Fe next year during Indian Market, I believe.
How cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in your very short career, looking back, what do you think was a real fork in the road for you?
Fork in the road. What do you mean? What?
Maybe a place where you sort of could have gone one way, but you went this other way.
Well, I thought when I first started, I truly thought that I would make Cherokee pottery, that I would stay with making just Cherokee pottery. I've seen people like Jane and Tammy Bean and different ones. Crystal Hannah, I just don't think that's for me. I'm glad that they do it. I think somebody should be doing it. If there wasn't anybody else, I would maybe consider doing it, but we have those people, and it kind of lets me do what I want to do, the more contemporary stuff, and I have fun doing that. I guess that's what I would say would be the fork. Is it when at first I thought I would do that, but I'm not really built that way. So the contemporary stuff, doing the new stuff all the time and coming up with something different each time, that's more fun for me. It's more of a challenge. It's fun. But we need those people to do their jobs. I can do mine.
What's been one of the low points?
Low points? That's a tough one. It's so fun, and I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy it so much that I can't wait to get up in the morning and create some pieces of pottery. And I can't really say that there's a low point. I've had such a good 2 years. I can't complain. I can't.
Can you identify one of the high points?
High points is making my teacher proud of me, my teachers, you know. I want them to know that I paid attention. I listened to what they were saying, and even the people that have given me business advice, down to the person who told me to smile when people come by. I appreciate all of it, and their words of encouragement have been incredible. It's been such a great ride for the last 2 years. All of it.
Well, is there anything we've forgotten to talk about or that you'd like to add before we look at your work?
No, I think I've talked more than I thought I was going to. I thought, what could I possibly have to talk about? I've only been doing this for 2 years. What could you possibly want from me? But, I really have had a good time, and I really have enjoyed it. And down to the last person I talked to, I enjoy talking to the kids when they come by my booth. I try to encourage them when I can. I've got little deals out there with kids when they come back for next year. At Red Earth, I've got a little girl named Megan that's going to come back, and she was taking a pottery class over the summer, and she's going to make one for me, and I'm going to have one for her, and we're going to swap when we get to that show. And just little things to look forward to, and different things you remember about the people from each show, and I sure hope I don't forget, but I've got to make a special turtle for this show for this person, because I want to make them happy, and I told them I would, and I will, and I look forward to seeing them again. Everywhere I go, I would never consider myself much of a people person, but I sure do enjoy it. I sure have enjoyed it.
Great. Well, we're going to take a look at your work.
Okay.
All right, Karen, can you tell us about this piece?
This is a dogwood orb. It's pretty heavily carved, and kind of a relief work.
Yeah.
But it has dogwoods all over it. And I just wanted to see how I could do for... I'd never done a highly carved piece like that.
It's got some beautiful colors.
Thank you. It took a while. It took a while. I started out with a really thick pot, and that's not what you want to do as a potter, to start out with a thick pot. But
is it heavy?
It was. It was really heavy before I started carving out a lot of that. It's a lot lighter now. The only opening is on the bottom, and it's about the size of a pencil, or, as big as a pencil is round, and fully enclosed.
It's really neat looking.
It's been painted using a mason stain mixed with slip and painted.
Okay, how about this piece, Karen?
This is Birds on a Wire, and the birds were carved out a little bit, not highly carved, but they were meant to look like a shadow.
Guess we
There's
can
a
kind of turn.
couple of lovebirds. There's some birds goofing off. One bird's telling the other bird off, kind of. One bird hanging upside down, and his friend's looking on. And you know, it's a big pot, and I just wanted to have fun with it. When I got to the design part, all I wanted to do was have fun with it. I didn't want to do anything serious. I just wanted to have a good time with it.
Yeah, it's fun, and you can tell they are different kinds of birds too. Okay, how about this piece?
This was a commission piece for another artist, and the turtle has a removable shell. He's been
Just beautiful.
painted with thank you. He's painted with an underglaze on his body, and his back was painted with not only an underglaze, but it also has the color. Besides the black, is the mason stain mixed with clay or slip.
Right. And maybe I'll have you just take the shell off for a minute too to show us. Oh, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, now we're looking at one of your painted pots.
The hummingbird pot. It's a ruby-throated hummingbirds, and the flowers with the Cherokee scroll work on the top and the bottom,
Right.
outlining those. And again, that is mason stain mixed with a slip for the colors, and the black outline is an underglaze. So what I did was I painted all the colors and then fired the piece, and then came back afterwards and sprayed it with an air gun, the black on it, and so the black fell into all the cracks, but it covered up my whole design. And then I wiped it off, and the black stays in the cracks and for the outlines, and the rest of it wipes off.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that was quite a job burnishing this one, looks like. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Karin.
Thank you.